Hello, and welcome to Magic in the Moment, where I reflect on what I notice and observe. My name is Abby Williams, and today I am joined by one of my beautiful friends, Devon Urchin, who is the editor of a magazine called Paranoia. How are you doing, Devon? What is
I'm
your
good.
state like today?
I'm good, Abby. Thank you for having me on your beautiful podcast. And what in the state I am in today is Mondays are my day off. So I wake up, I go to Monday morning disco on Zoom, which my friend hosts a
What?
little disco party at 7:30 in the morning, or at
That
8
sounds
o'clock in the morning.
awesome.
Uh-huh. She's like, what if we start the week off in a very different way? So at 8 o'clock in the morning, she has a DJ set, you know, and then I do a little yoga, made a little coffee. So I'm good. I'm feeling today like I have maybe some work to do,
Mm.
but that I can accomplish it, that I can do it.
Is this work like physical work or inner work?
It's I actually this week the themes change every week, right? And every day. But the theme this week is I think I've accomplished some personal things, some tasks that I need done, and now the attention turns back out to my community. My community has some needs. Some people in my life have things that I can help with. So I'm going to be helpful this week, which I don't always have the capacity to be in the way that
Yeah.
people need. But this week I have some time and some resources to help around town.
That is so exciting. That must feel so fulfilling
Yeah,
when you
it
actually
feels good.
have something to give back.
Absolutely. Yeah. It comes and goes, and sometimes I'm the one who needs the help, and sometimes I'm the one who can give the help. So it just feels very neutrally cyclical, and it feels like less of a burden than it used to. Sometimes when people would need help, it would cause me to clam up
Mm.
and to get scared of maybe not being able to help as much as they need. But I've gotten better at saying what I can do also. I've been very
That's
specific.
powerful.
Yeah, to be very specific with people with how much time you have, what else you have going on in the day, yeah, and how much energy you have, which I think is a new conversation in the world to say, I'm not sure I have the energy for that.
Yeah,
And
creating like actual boundaries. Because
yeah,
that word is thrown around a lot, but I
hmm
feel like being very clear about what you have and how much you can give is actual, real, tangible boundaries.
yeah. And I've found that it's actually an answer that calms everybody in the group down. The answer, I have unlimited time and resources, is not what anybody's looking for. And I thought it was. But people are looking for how much time and energy do you have today to help? And they're just looking for
Interesting.
the truth. The truth there is best. Yeah.
But most of us are people pleasers and we
hmm
want to be available to everyone at all times. No
Yeah. Yeah.
restrictions. I'm fine with anything. I'll go anywhere. When really that's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case. And everybody knows based on their own experience that that's not ever really possible. And it's I think about taking the confusion out of the situation by being very clear with one another. So you're not projecting onto them what you think they expect from you, and and yeah, and then having a I always call it a shower argument when you're just in your shower like, well, I don't have time to do that, Abby. So you're just going to have to change courses here. And you're like,
Like,
Abby's not even talking to you right now. You're in your shower.
yeah.
hmm
Oh my gosh, I do that all the time. In my head, I'm like creating what the other person is going to respond like, and most of the
Yeah,
time they never respond that way.
right. Yeah. So I'm allowing people back, their prerogative to be upset, or I mean, hopefully not, usually not, but
Yeah,
giving them that option to say what they think. Yeah. Being very specific has helped.
that's beautiful. Okay, I want to ask you what you are feeling grateful for in this moment or this past week?
Hmm.
What is your heart full of?
My right hip for a couple of years now has been tapping me on the shoulder and saying, I'm a big part of how you move in the world. And through yoga, we learn that's where we store our stress and anxiety a lot of the time.
Hmm.
So this week, I'm very aware of how joyful it can be to pay attention to something so specific like my right hip in my body, and finding out like how freeing that's been in the rest of my week to like have a juicier hip, because I've been stretching it so much more and paying so much more attention to it and being so much more diligent about my yoga. I'm grateful for my body, my muscles, my ability to like alter how my stomach feels based on what I eat. Like I'm just this week I'm very aware of like how input and output is so instant gratification with your body, really, how you really can shape your week, because your body's an amazing thing.
It's like the tool that we have to move through
Yeah,
the world.
absolutely.
It's funny that
I
you're saying all this because my next question was, what are you becoming conscious of?
mm-hmm,
And these are all the things that it sounds like you've been becoming very mindful of how
mm-hmm.
you're moving and how you really feel in your body.
Yeah, it's just no one, it's kind of the same as the conversation we were having about your time. It's like there's no right answer to how does your body feel. It's just being specific is more the point. It's not my body feels great. It's this one area is really tight, and stretching it this way can help, and being very present and honest with yourself, allowing yourself to just be honest about that.
Yeah, not like a blanket. I always feel this way or I always feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Living in that black and white mindset.
Yeah, those are stories we're telling ourselves. And it's more fun and more interesting if you read a book that's very vague, that we could all write about some unnamed character doing these unnamed generic things. That's nowhere near as interesting as, and our day is kind of about what keeps it interesting. Like, I'm more interested in a specific thing I'm going through or working through than how do I get to I'm having a good day. That is not the nirvana for me anymore, because
Mm,
then I think every day does become sort of good and interesting and something to look forward to the more
yeah,
specific I get.
and that comes from true presence. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so happy to hear that you're in a place where you can do this
Yeah.
because this is something I'm struggling with a lot is
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to the next thing, looking forward to the next thing,
Yeah.
and projecting my happiness or my well-being onto that instead
Yeah.
of experiencing the complexity of this moment and really allowing myself to dive into what is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's way more interesting, isn't it?
it and when I can do that, it doesn't really matter if I'm that blanket statement happy or not
Yeah.
because whatever is there is something to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a whole new experience no matter what. Things become neutral. Big life events are obviously worth taking time to, for example, grieve. Or when I do a big performance or produce a big performance or an event, it takes me days to just, I watch the videos over and over. I say, I can't believe that was so fun and successful and amazing. Or how would I do it different? I have to take time on big life events to download and digest. And those are kind of like mini arcs in a month or a week or a year. But these
Right.
day-to-day things are, we don't we have a lot of unknowns when we wake up. I've been really finding success with these 13 minutes of yoga. This Australian Kundalini yoga teacher I follow, she just does 13 minutes as a warm up, and you're supposed to do 45 minutes after that. But if I don't have time, I do these 13-minute videos. And as anyone who works out in any way, moves their body intentionally, knows, one day of running is not the same as the very same path and amount of time the next day could just feel so
Hmm.
different because you're something happens to you. We're downloading all these experiences, and curiosity, that's the word of the year for me, is like get like be so like blank neutral and then curious about things that maybe I used to judge, and just now being like, oh, that's and it's this is getting into territory that sounds very trite, but it is really more interesting to me, more amazing, because I think as very smart, intelligent, high-minded social beings, we get bored if we start
Absolutely.
thinking of the next day as another Monday, another week at work. That gets so boring, and I refuse to live on this planet. It's so bored. So
Yeah.
asking myself, how do you feel? How's your body feeling? Where's your brain at? What are you downloading? Is just more interesting, and it keeps me on a different path, a different task, a different yeah. What foods do I feel like eating? Yeah.
It also keeps you so much more open to
Yeah,
opportunities, to actually
definitely.
seeing what's in front of you
Mhm.
and allowing life to hand you magic, which
Yeah.
this conversation is flowing so beautifully. Thank you. You are so intelligent. Um,
Back at ya.
yeah. Thank you. Oh, um, I feel like we can kind of move through our lives expecting God or the universe to hand us the big moments and the magical experiences. But what does it really look like? And it sounds like this is what you're already talking about. What does it look like to intentionally create your own magic? And it sounds like it's much easier now that you're in this place where you're getting curious. So,
Mhm.
what do you do like with this freedom, right? Because when you're present, you have all this power.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind. First, a big mantra key to my life that forever I will take with me is not intuitive to me maybe, but it feels so good to have freedom within structure. I If I put my life on these stilts that I know are concrete and recognizable, and I'm talking basics, I'm talking when you wake up, you sweep the floor, you put your yoga mat down, you do 13 minutes of yoga. Then you drink water. Then I'm making oatmeal, I'm making coffee, I'm taking shower. Okay, these are just the ways a human wakes up. But if I get up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to, which is so often, but then I just unroll the mat. It's like my body goes into the routine, and then I know I wait. I get out of the yoga or the shower or the coffee moment, and I go, I'm so glad I followed the plan that I made for
Yeah.
myself, because no one made it for me. I can change the plan, but finding something that works as a structure in any creative path that I'm following, even on my commute to work, I change which street I walk down sometimes to change the view. But if I have a
Yeah.
structure to my day, then I have freedom within that structure to see what was the question? Originality we're looking for?
How you create magic for
Create
yourself,
magic
which
for
it,
myself.
yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like you create magic by setting a foundation.
By setting a foundation, and then there's this other part of that the magic comes in, and it's intuition for what brings you a little giggle inside. It's like,
Ooh,
yeah. It's
that's
like,
so cute.
yeah, it is. It's like, you know, there's this little farm that I see them disassembling near my train stop, but they used to have chickens, and I wonder what's happening to them. I wonder if they got sick or I don't know what, but they're dismantling this little community farm over there. The reason I bring it up is because it brings me such a giggle to walk past that community farm in my
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood. And so I just make it a priority to pass by there because it just makes me go like, I can't believe I live in the Bronx and there's a chicken there. And to me, the more you open your eyes to, it's a little secret to myself. I'm like dating myself now, which is very healthy for me.
Oh,
I'm
yes, me too. Have
Yeah,
been
it's
for a
so
while.
I'm the best boyfriend I ever had for sure.
Honestly, amen.
I am so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I go like, and that's how I stopped drinking this year too, to bring up like a bigger iceberg, is
Oh,
like
wow.
I kind of looked at myself. I was taking a walk to work and I said, "You and I, kid, we're going to stop drinking right now and everyone around you is going to be have questions and I don't need to answer. Like everyone's going to have a question or an opinion but it's just you and me. Like it's just me, myself and I. When I fall asleep, when I wake up, I'm so much less bored than the routine of like going to the bar, for example, and seeing the same people so little tiny secret to yourself where you go, hey, and this is a story I wanted to bring up in this regard, and it really is something I keep in my mind of my past. It's so I was dating a man in Germany. I met
Hmm.
him when I studied abroad. I studied abroad in Hong Kong in 2009.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I met this tall, blonde, blue eyed German man.
Beautiful.
And he and I had the most, you know, eat, pray, love romance. We traveled the world. I used to visit him in Germany. He used to come here. We'd go back and forth. But when he was there and I was here, he he had a very hard time not controlling, like, why are you going out, why are you spending money on coffee, we should be spending that on traveling to see each other, became a big topic.
Okay.
So I would take my hard-earned money from the Texas Roadhouse and I would go to Starbucks before my shift and I would buy myself a coffee and I wouldn't tell him and I wouldn't tell, I didn't owe that information to anyone. But I swear to God, over the time that I kept doing that, even though, first of all, I don't support Starbucks anymore, and second of all, I'm not saying go spend your money defiantly or lie to your boyfriend. These are not the advice. The advice is standing in line at Starbucks and seeing the same barista over and over, and them saying hello to me started to feel like community. And then
Exactly.
yeah, and then they started to know my drink, and then they would give me a free one every couple of weeks. And then it wasn't about the coffee, it wasn't about the defiance, it was just about something that made me giggle inside, to look forward to, and to see a friendly face. That's no small thing either. I mean, I met you the
No.
same way cuz
Yeah, I was just about to say that's
yeah.
how we know each other because you were, and probably still are, a regular at the coffee shop I worked at in the city.
Yeah. And that kind of became a big thing in maybe many people's lives. Is like that coffee, that very overpriced coffee from that very beautiful place. But I stopped thinking of it that way because I was like, this is important to me. And I mean, now usually they're supporting great farmers all around the world, these companies that really put their effort into sourcing good coffee. And
Exactly.
now we have like a bigger excuse to support these places, but it really is about the interaction across the counter, and I love being on both sides of that interaction, and just giving people a little reason to, I don't know, grow a little taller in their spine and take a little breath, and or like cry at the barista counter and share a moment that's hard with each other even though you don't really know
Yeah.
each other very well, is beautiful. So
The
yeah.
amount of things people will share with you over the
In two
counter is
seconds. Yeah.
incredible. Like
Yeah.
the comfort that customers grow to experience with their barista if they
Mm-hmm.
keep coming in over time
Yeah.
is just beautiful.
It
Like
is.
you don't even really know these people, but somehow you do because
Yeah.
they share their lives with you.
Yeah. And although people in the Midwest and, everywhere in the country except for New York City, let's just call it that. So it's 99.99% of this country. They're living at home with whoever they live at home with. And then they're getting in their little pod, called a car, and then they go to their work. So there's this little pipeline like in Mario, and you go in your pipe and you pop out the other side. But
Yeah.
Here in New York, we have this crazy thing where we're orphans here, but we have the most people around us in the world. Like there's nowhere else where you have this many people around you at all times.
It's the
Yeah,
biggest community, and the one thing everyone has in common is that they live in New York City.
yeah. And we all and unlike Delhi in India, unlike these different big cities in the world, New York is unique New York in
Right?
that most people moved here as orphans away from their hometown.
Yeah,
Like I would say that is either statistically correct or at least spiritually correct,
right.
is that New York is an island of misfit toys more than anywhere else in the world. And
100%.
when we forget that is when we get nasty with one another. But when we remember that, is like, you've seen people carry strollers up the stairs. Those moments are magic to me too. Making yourself available to either get help or give help, give a smile, get a smile,
Hmm.
take a penny, leave a penny.
Those were also very magical experiences for me. Like just the opportunity to be like, do you want help with that? Like, I'm here.
Yeah,
And the amount of strangers
yeah,
that almost made me tear up just
yeah.
because they smiled at me
Isn't that great?
was, yeah, beautiful.
Amazing. And then if you get in the right mindset, you're even thanking people for like telling you to fuck off sometimes. Like sometimes you feel like that's so New York.
Yeah, like so much of the time is people being done with you.
Yeah. And I'm
And
like, you're right. You're right, actually.
for me, it was like walking to work, I was in such a rush, right? And like everybody was in my way. But
Yeah.
then when I had all the time in the world, right, I'm walking slow. And then other
Yeah.
people are like, bitch, get out of the way.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, keeping your peripherals open, I'm always looking 2 blocks ahead, looking on left and right. And even if I have my like, do 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 do, I'm walking down the street. Even if I'm in that, I try to, and that's a crazy part of our brains that you're not using if you live anywhere else, is you're using like this like 800 sensors in your body to, is there someone behind me that's going
Uh-huh.
faster than me, that's trying to pass me? And by the way, I don't mean to diminish anyone's experience anywhere in the world. I just mean this is a hyper concentrated experience of that constantly. Is
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a social experiment for sure living here.
I
So
think so.
yeah, you learn a lot about yourself here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm I'm becoming conscious of what that experience has done for me.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Finally, like getting out of the muck,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see and also experience all of the effects of what an extraordinary experience that all was.
Yeah.
All of the newness and novelty that I got to witness there is, I don't know, proving to have expanded me in the most profound way. Like, I just feel so different now that I'm becoming happy again. I'm like, oh my God, I needed that. I don't really
Yeah.
know why, but I needed that.
Yeah. That really, yeah. I'm first of all glad to hear you say that as your friend who's tried not to push too hard since you left. To hear that that's the experience you're having is the best I could have hoped for,
Thank you.
as you're hoping things for your pals. That's the outcome I was hoping you'd have. And do you find that you're bringing it to other people, that other people are being affected by that just by being around you now?
I think so. I think I'm finding my desire to share again. I think, right,
Mm,
because I'm gaining more to actually
mm,
give. Like now I'm in
yeah.
a place where I can actually give.
Yeah.
And yeah, even just dancing like in a gathering feels like something I can do and something
Yeah.
I can contribute,
Yeah.
you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you did that so profoundly at the last Stonewall event that you were a part of.
Yeah. So I dressed up like Perot the clown and did an improvisational piece to The Sound of Music at
It all
one
just
of
sounds so wacky.
it is really wacky.
It's like
But yeah,
that's
that
a
was
mad lib. That's just a mad lib of a sentence. Like insert
something. Yeah.
idea.
How do those words even come to be together?
And thank God for it.
Perot and The Sound of Music.
But
Um,
improvised. But no plan
no
there.
plan. Maybe a structure. Oh
A
my gosh, we had a
structure,
structure
absolutely.
for that, and that's how the magic unfolded was because we had something to go off of.
Truly. And if you would allow me, I want to tell you about my opera that we just produced that
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
please do.
because this is the biggest example of freedom in structure. And it was almost, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to presenting artwork. And I think a lot of people listening to your podcast are artists
I think and hope.
or enjoy art. There's a lot of layers to it. Like, I'm learning right now to not give the thesis as the performance. That's a secret nugget. And so you find ways, I mean, listen, I'll be transparent. I will tell the audience if they ask me, I will tell an interviewer if they ask me. It's not a secret to the whole world, but it is a secret in terms of when you are putting out work, there can be an impetus to say what you want the audience to get out of it, or what you expect the New York Times to say in the review, if you were to ever get to that level where they would pay attention, if any reviewer. But taking that, I have radically removed that this year from what I'm doing. And it wasn't until maybe partway through this new wave of work I've been putting out, I said, stop answering what will they think about this. That is not helping you to put the idea onto the stage or onto the page.
Especially
Um,
because if they don't feel those things or think those things, then they might even think they did something wrong or that they're
or like you
missing something.
or like you just said about moving from New York, it took you weeks or months to download that experience and to even feel what that gave you. So back to Moon, this opera, I came to you months ago and I said, I think we're going to do this. I've done a series in the past where I thought, what if you took the idea of opera, the grandeur, the big voices, the big dramatic scenes, and what if you removed the Italian language or the German language or these traditional French languages that these have been written in, Russian? What if you put nonsense language in there? Because I hypothesize the audience will still understand the drama and the effect of what they love about opera without understanding each individual word. And I've done this in the past, but it was more on Zoom during COVID and all these different things.
Right.
And I said, let me raise the stakes so high. I'm uh I'm part of the National Opera Center, which has rehearsal spaces for $15, whatever. So that's kind of cheap in New York to get an hour in a space for $15.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Woo! That's cheap real estate right there. So I've been rehearsing there, and then they're sending out these emails. Hey, we have these performance spaces available for rent, and they're cheaper for you because you're a member. And I said, as the kids say, I said, bet. I said, bet.
Bet.
And I said, let me make this opera not even at like the Stonewall where I'm now performing more often or at, an underground space. Let me just launch it onto the stage of the National Opera Center, which is sort of a
100%.
and it was the placement, the venue was as part of the experience as the performance itself in a way. Like being there launched the performers into a new stratosphere, the audience into a new stratosphere. It just put everyone into a different mindset, and it made it at the same time more legitimate and more subversive that we were
Yeah.
doing this crazy thing in this high lofty, I mean, it's really like going into the belly of the corporate beast and just saying, what if we fucked with this? And then it turns out, if you don't fuck with it with malintent, that could be revolutionary because you're not really going in there to like tear it down. We were going in there to make just a very different. idea of art, and everyone, bought into it. But I had to get rid of that out of my head when I was creating and just start with an idea, put it down on paper. We're always wrestling with the commercial, what will be accepted by the masses
Yeah.
versus what would I do in my bedroom alone for my stuffed animals? And somewhere in the middle is the happy medium of an audience will clearly understand what you're conveying, but it's also not the most personal thing. There's a balance, and it takes collaboration. So then, in all this madness, in all this craziness, the structure is the answer, because I said, all right, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we're going to write down what happens at the beginning, we're going to write down what happens at the end, and we're going to come up with the idea of how we get from A to B. And then you start bringing in these collaborators. I had this orchestra called Aesop's Sound Fables, who played cello, bassoon, piano, guitar, and a bucket drum, all improvised.
That sounds amazing.
And it really, again, elevated the art into like having an orchestra, just legitimized it in this different way. And it made it sound so full and beautiful. And they were willing to just improvise throughout this structure of this story. And we, of course, got together a few times and built a relationship between the artists, the orchestra, the story, the space. But in the moment, we created an opera live on stage with nonsense language, with no notes written on a page, no choreography written down. It was all just a structure within which we could play and have the freedom to do what we're really doing, because you're not thinking, where do I go next? What do I do next? What do I say next? That part was removed, and it just created a really beautiful, fertile ground to grow this really innovative, beautiful piece.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
very proud of that.
I don't really know of anybody doing that, of really just
Yeah,
allowing the moment to speak and
yeah.
ceasing to worry about what's going to happen and
At
just
least if it's not
trusting.
funny, because there's a lot of comedy that does improv like that.
That's
But what
true.
but taking it so sincerely and then letting it be improv was also kind of novel, I think. Without trying to be novel, I think that's what was so shocking about it, was taking musical theater improv kind of structure and then taking it very sincerely and genuinely. Yeah.
It's really admirable. I'm
Thank you.
so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
And it immediately clicked with the audience. The afterwards in the lobby, people were just buzzing like, we have to do that again. It'll be different every night. I didn't have to spoon feed them the idea. They took out of it what I intended by just putting heart and soul and being so bold and bombastic about your idea and not making fun of it, not turning everything into farce.
Yeah,
You did that with your dance at the Stonewall with the Sound of Music dressed as Poirot. Like, that could have been a Saturday Night Live sketch.
right.
But because you did it with all sincerity and heart behind what we were building together, the audience bought it hook, line, and sinker, and the music didn't even work.
Yeah, they did.
Transformative, really.
Yeah,
Playing for people is transformative. Yeah.
because I think that's what we all want, really, is to be kids again.
Yes,
And so when you
exactly.
can give people that, I also think that sometimes intentions are better left unspoken
Yeah.
because what you're putting out into the universe will expand and no one else
Yes.
has to know about it. They will just experience the fruit of it without even
Mm-hmm.
knowing that that's what you wanted.
Yeah. That is what I'm becoming aware of from earlier. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
that's the big like, if you put your hand an inch away from someone else's and you feel that heat, like, we're
Hmm.
radiating chemically, not just like in our hippy dippy brains. We are really emitting something from ourselves, and we can just so easily feel one another, and that is intuition. It can turn into paranoia real easily, which is kind of the impulse for the name of my magazine.
Tell me about it.
Like, but that should not be stifled so concretely, so black and white. Like, your intuition lives with your paranoia. They are buddies. Maybe they're enemies, but they're definitely part of the same intuition that your third eye, your crown chakra is all is all what makes us different maybe than, well, it's what makes us different than the fish we came from, maybe. And then we overcomplicate it and overuse our mouths, these dumb mouths.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
I have really been learning that I say too much. I say a lot of things that are unnecessary.
that's
That
okay
really,
too, though. That's
yeah.
okay too, though.
I
It can be spaghetti at the wall theory
yeah,
too. Yeah.
I fear it's the product of being young, that that's
Oh,
just something a young person has to learn, is that, oh, maybe I don't need to say as much as I want to.
sometimes. Other times, like, I can't wait to be the mouthy 75-year-old who's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just not speaking when you don't have anything to say is important. Yeah, I need to,
Well, even when I have so much to say,
sure.
and learning how to reel that back in and think really intentionally about what is worth saying and also
Hmm.
what is being spoken without words,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Exactly. And probably me 5 years ago thought that exact sentence and then said, what if I strip the language out of opera? And then you perform that opera and someone walks away from it going, it seems like we can say so much more without words, which is which is the thesis you said before you started an art project, and then they're unpacking it that way, and that is a success. Or it's a success if they totally interpret something different. But yeah, this all full circle comes into sort of
All the roots that you
trusting
planted.
trusting your partner too. Trusting your partner, meaning the audience, or your conversation partner, or your barista customer. Trusting that they could understand what you're putting out.
And maybe that's where we start projecting a lot, is because we fear we're being misunderstood.
Oh,
That
definitely.
we don't trust
I struggle with that.
ourselves or the other person. So we're trying to make up what is,
Yeah.
because we don't allow that ease.
And maybe that's because we've had a lot of experience to reinforce that people do not understand us. This very famous thing from this very well-respected group of people called the Christians. um,
Yes, I know a
th-
lot of them.
it's very poignant to say they will know we are Christians by our love. It's not so simple, but it is so exactly. Like, everyone around you is going to feel it. You can't be like, I'm a loving person and I'm angry because no one gets that. Like, just be the loving person, and the people who don't get that can fall away. And I don't need everyone in the world to be calm, peaceful Buddhist monks at all times. There's times to be loud, there's times to be angry, there's different times to be different things. But when I'm angry and I have to shout at someone to convince them that I'm angry, I'm it doesn't get the message across any clearer. It might feel better in the moment to express rage, but those can be separate experiences. I can express my rage when it's appropriate in a
Mm,
space where I can scream or move my body, or you know whatever I need to do to, or dance.
yeah.
But convincing someone through volume and all of that it's just not always effective, and the person usually recoils away from what you're actually trying to express. Yeah, and then the whole world's going through it online. Like, how do we communicate now through the keyboard, which is a replica of how we speak to each other in person, and we're trying to use things like caps and emojis to express how we it's like, if I'm not in the same room as you, I mean, I'm looking at your face, Abby, and I love you, but there's nothing like staring at you in person and really feeling the vibe.
Right.
you know?
There's so
Yeah.
much that we miss, so much connection that we can't have
Yeah,
through this screen.
definitely. And we learned that so hard during COVID. Just like,
Yeah.
but then it makes you go, I'm not trying to replicate those experiences when I'm locked in my room. Have now is an opportunity to have what does it feel like to be alone for 4 months? That experience, and we kept, and thank God we did. Zoom gave us all a lot of outlet to connect and be together. Even right now, we're using it to do that. But um, there's nothing to replicate. Like for example, theater, Zoom theater. To me, I'm gonna one day build a museum of Zoom theater, and I didn't like Zoom theater, but I think it needs to be preserved for the future, like
So that they
what
can
that
see
was.
the history.
Just because people were aching to experience one another and experience expression, each other's expression, and to perform for one another, that became just like caveman
Yeah, just
necessity to do that
basic
for one another.
needs.
Yeah, basic needs: food, water, express yourself in front of your friend. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that has been something I have also been becoming aware of is when you're in a group of people,
mhm.
everyone imitates each other.
Yeah.
And why that is so important, I don't know why, but for some reason when we say something funny, we
Hmm.
need other people to repeat it or to
Yeah.
acknowledge it in some way.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that, like, it almost validates that what we did was real.
Yeah. And that you're picking from the like micro zeitgeist you've built with your little pod community, that you're like tapping into something everyone gets. Like there's just something very magical about that.
I think
Telling a joke.
so.
Yeah. It's like everyone gets it. Even if it's like you'll acknowledge if you're saying something even sad, but everyone goes like totally. Like there's a moment of understanding.
Yeah. Something about even just being heard. Even if people don't understand you, just knowing that someone is hearing or experiencing your pain in some way is like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm not dealing with this all alone.
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And that's, things get in our heads like code switching and mimicking, or these are all what we're built and made to do. These are all the things we're built and made to do. Survival wise, we are built and made to like reflect one another. I just got a message from an agent that I auditioned for, and
No way.
it seems like they're asking, wait, you want to check it live on pod? I mean, you can edit it out, but
Yes.
live on pod. Hello, thank you for submitting your self tape. We enjoyed your performance and would like to meet with you in person at our Clark, New Jersey offices.
What? Dude, no
This is,
way.
I'm so glad that I'm on the horn with you when that happens. That's so exciting.
Wait, did that just happen?
Yeah, so a person came to my restaurant that I work at, which is a very theater restaurant, and I always told people no one's gonna like pluck me as a waiter and be like, we want you. But this woman did this. She goes, do you have representation? I said, why are you asking me that? She goes, do you do theater? I was like, yeah, but how did you
Why are
know
you
that from?
asking?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, this was 2 months ago. She said, the due date is today, February 24th. She sent me all that. She's finally sent me this email. She said, please film two contrasting monologues and a musical theater piece if you want to be in musical theater, which I do. And a little backstory, if people are listening and maybe inspired by this, I didn't know how to do. I've been performing since I was young, professionally on the stage. Didn't have a headshot. Didn't know how to make self tapes. I didn't know what I was doing, and somehow I got my ass in gear. I practiced it. I got into rehearsal rooms. I put my phone in front of myself more often, and I did it. I was just like, I have to get these videos to this woman, even if it's gonna kill me. And now I just got a message saying, we respected what you sent us and we'd like to talk to you more about that.
Oh my gosh. And, one of the last times we actually hung out, you
Uh-huh.
were going into the whole idea about like trying to get an agent and like
Yeah.
looking for that, sending emails out.
Yes.
I'm just, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. It feels
Congrats.
monumental. I Everything is also less overwhelming when I create bite-sized nuggets that I can accomplish one after the other, and then get to sit back and have a little tear in my eye as I accept the fact that that just
That just
went in a
happened.
way, yeah, and went in a way that's not going to close off the experience going forward. Like this, this feels like opening a new path. You know, even if this agent doesn't work out the right way, it's like it at least, like you said, validates. We see you. We got you. We got that email.
Mm.
It just, it's a little bit less frustrating than an abyss of no answers.
Oh,
Um,
don't you just hate that?
or scaring yourself out of trying because you're, my mom last year, last February, I was nearing the end of a bad job. I was breaking up with a boyfriend. Everything seemed low. And my mom goes, you need this year. I was home in Cleveland. She said, you need to hear no a lot more this year. I need you to accept a lot more no's. Um, and you know, she was probably in her head, she probably knew this, but that never is really how it pans out. When you start asking people around you genuinely to be part of or watch what you're doing, or, you know, there's a lot less no's than you think there will be. But if you don't ask,
Then the answer is always no.
thank you.
Yeah.
And that feels really great. That feels really great
Yeah.
that this happened. So,
And that's what you were saying about even if it doesn't pan out the way you think, it's just going back to that process of like, this is just part of that process. And
yeah,
you're still gaining something just from them saying they're interested. I mean, like you were
yeah,
saying, I'm kind of just reiterating that because I think it's so
yeah,
important.
yeah. What's going to continue the flow? Like, if you just imagine your life as like water or magical glitter flowing into your back and then coming out the front of you, flowing, flowing. It's like, what can I open, loosen, relax so that there's flow? That's yoga, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's just it there in the microcosm in your body. It's like, if I'm not loose, the blood's not flowing, the oxygen's not flowing, the tears are not flowing, the, you know, and the same thing in the bigger, not so microcosm, the actual bigger things in life. Um they follow that, they respond to that, and it's just, you want to feel like things are flowing forward, that there's opportunity, that there's openness on the other end and not dead ends. So
Yeah.
turning away from dead ends, creating more open space and opportunity just feels like, in a very dramatic way, it feels like that is going to get you closer to your intended purpose in this ecosystem, your destiny, your mission, the things that you're not choosing to accomplish or think that you're supposed to accomplish, but the real things that you can just be a part of, in the 80 years that you're given here, if we're lucky.
That is what I'm focusing on, like the most. Just being here with what is, moving forward with what I have, and I am expecting wholeheartedly the unexpected. Like, I
Yeah,
have no idea what is going to happen.
that's a very exciting place to be.
Because as soon as I got here, I was like, I need to do something in theater. It, even though it's going to be small, I got to do something. And I found this community theater where all of the people organizing it came from New York. And they're bringing theater to NWA, Northwest Arkansas. And I saw that they were doing Hello Dolly. And so I reached out and I was like, is there anything I can do to help with this show? Like tech, dressing, like whatever.
Yeah.
And the director emailed me back and said, I would love for you to be Dolly's dresser. Like, here's the information. Like, come do the show with us. So that started last night.
If the audience can't see me, I'm gasping.
Yeah, jaw dropped.
It's
Um,
thrilling, Abby.
I'm so excited because I got there and the director, her name is Kayla, she was really excited that I had just moved back from New York. And she was like, "Where did you live?" And I was like, "Washington Heights." And she was like, "Where?" So I told her where on 190th, and she was like, "Because I lived on 187th." And I
Right.
was like, "Of course you did." We were just like a few avenues away from each other.
Yes.
And that instantly created a connection between us.
Yes.
Like something that we get to share. And also, because I've worked in theater and she was actually working in theater, she feels like there's something that I can give to her, right? Because I have more knowledge and more information than maybe someone who hasn't actually worked in theater. And then they're doing these camps, like these kids' summer camps. And she asked me, like, "Do you choreograph?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Because we need someone to choreograph those." And I'm like,
Stop it right
"Great."
now.
Yeah, right? And then she's talking about this nonprofit she has in New York. And I'm just like, I just wonder if something is going to lead to, I don't know, being a part of that or whatever that is. Or
Of
even if
course.
she connects me to other people, or I don't know. Devon, I have this knowing that I'm coming back to New York.
I know
Like,
it too.
it's scary, but I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like even just meeting this woman who lived in my same neighborhood, I'm like, something is gonna happen, and I'm gonna
And
find
you
myself right back there.
and you wouldn't have met her unless you reached out and put yourself out there, and do that in your, I think the advice is like, do that in your most scared, vulnerable places. Just reach out, at, like, not unintentionally, but you found a place that was doing theater, you found a place, and then you immediately found community, you immediately felt better about moving home. People gave you the validation that you had something to offer and to give, and they understood
Oh,
your path. And then I got tears in my eyes thinking of this woman reaching her hand out and giving you what she has to give now, because she has more time and capacity to give you help up,
yeah.
more opportunities, more space. And then your brain's going about, when does this mean New York's back in my life? My friend once told me when I was leaving home for to come to New York, don't worry, Devon, because life can be this modular life. It doesn't have to be big life choices that are then the next 60 years. It can be these modules of your life, and you can have
Okay.
things shift, there can be a Hello Dolly period, which is coming up for you, which is
Yeah.
thrilling. When I've been approaching big theater pieces or big projects, my magazine issues, I like to take a piece of Bristol board, which is a Bristol paper, which is a little more thick, and I like to take a pen of my choosing that feels right. Picking up a pen, picking a color is the metaphor I'm going for. If you just feel like it gives you a little giggle, it makes things feel a little better to use like a gel roll pen versus a Sharpie type felt tip pen. Like, choosing your materials, choosing your colors, choosing that is all part of your intuition, your creativity, following the path that, is leading you toward those things. And picking an idea that feels so good to you to put on paper and to make it come to life. And then I trust that plan, I trust that structure to create the freedom. I don't second guess that first initial gut reaction. It's kind of like just trusting that your ideas are worth sharing, and that if you have the impulse to be a performer and to be one of these storyteller griot, history tells us that these people are so very important. Putting your ideas out, it's not everybody feels that impulse.
Yeah,
I believe everyone
I forget
I
that.
believe Yeah, we do, right? We're in the middle of a whirlpool of people with creative ideas, and the need to express. But there's other people who love to be an audience member.
Mm,
And that helps me a lot
is
to remember that I'm not
knowing that
competing
you
with
have that
everyone.
impulse,
Yeah.
acting on the impulse.
Yeah. And being secure that even if it's a small idea in your head or a silly idea in your head, if it feels sincere and correct and genuine, performing that for people, putting that out there for people um, is never a wasted effort.
Yeah, I think.
Someone is touched by it, inspired by it, opens more opportunity for other people to inspire them to keep going.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, one last thing.
Okay,
Um,
I'm
that
ready.
reminds me of something I was reflecting on this morning, which is I have noticed myself throughout my life getting really tired by telling people my story.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, my story is always so complex, and I always
Mm-hmm.
feel this need to give people context, right?
Yes.
Because, oh, I moved to New York. Oh, that's cool. What were you doing there? Well, I was doing this. Well, like, there's just
Yeah.
all of these things that go along with what I have to say to really feel like I'm telling my story. And I always get so tired.
Yes.
And I was praying and thinking about this, and I thought, well, that's one of the ways that I get to inspire people. Maybe without even knowing it, but my literally telling my story
Mm-hmm.
is a way to inspire people, which is what I want to do.
Absolutely.
So instead of
Absolutely.
seeing it as this chore or as this thing that's like, oh, I don't want to have to go into all this detail, it's like, no, the detail is where the magic is. The detail is where the inspiration is, and whatever that person kind of gets from it
Mm-hmm.
is valuable.
Yeah. My right hip.
Yeah.
You're getting tired because you're bored of hearing your own version of the story that you made up in your head that is like a chore now to say to someone. But if you come up with a new version of it every time based on what you're feeling in the moment or going, I remembered my friend Devon and we were walking down the street and we walked this very old woman with a walker who seemed to
Oh,
not have a home, and we got her across the street, and and we happened to be in the middle of creating a performance where I dressed as a clown and performed The Sound of Music. It's like those things are not what people expected you to say, but they're interesting to you to say. They're very specific. um and then people are off the topic of like boring interview. How are you? Where did you come from? What did you do in New York? Like, they don't want that version anyway. They're just trying to engage and hear, tales from another land. And making it interesting for yourself is always a good impulse for making it interesting for your audience, or even just an audience of one that you're talking to. If it's not interesting to you, they're probably bored too of
I am
what you're saying.
so glad you said this because you just taught me something, and I'm so excited to run with this because I had never thought of that before. That people are looking for the details, they're looking for something specific.
So specific. Yeah.
Okay, we could talk for so much
Forever.
longer,
Forever.
but I feel like it's time to wrap this up. So, thank you so much, Devin, for being
Thank
here
you
and
so much for
having this
having me.
conversation because I just enjoyed this so much.
It was so fun. It's always nice to talk to you, Abby. I love you.
I love you too. So, thank you everyone for listening or watching. I appreciate you and I love you so much. So, that's all from us.
Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye.